they're hoping that the worried worker will actually trust an advisor.
You have the audacity to believe your financial advisor should focus on your long-term goals, not their short-term.
In its marketing, the industry implies that retirement advisors are on our side. But when it comes to employee retirement plans, there are no clear standards on who can give advice.
Financial advisors lead from a new position of strength.
The Department of Labor is responsible for regulating employee retirement plans.
We have a system today where anybody can hold themselves out as an expert. They call themselves retirement planners, financial planners, advisors, etc. We don't have a standard way that the consumer can figure out who has the expertise to provide advice.
What's a financial advisor?
That is a term that means almost nothing. It is somebody who might be a financial planner, or it could be a broker who is really a salesperson.
There when you need them.
There are registered investment advisors, or fiduciaries, who are obligated by law to act in their clients' best interests.
Let's talk about the cookie-cutter retirement advice you get at some places.
But the vast majority of so-called advisors, around 85%, are not fiduciaries.
Selling their funds makes them more money, which makes you wonder, isn't that a conflict?
They are merely brokers or salesmen.
A fiduciary is a professional who, by law, is supposed to put your interests ahead of their own. Broker-dealers are not under that obligation. They have to conform to a suitability standard, which means they can't put you into something which is totally unsuitable for you.
This doesn't have to be the best thing that you could pick out for them. It's just something that's suitable. It's okay. I can't believe that somebody would want to get into a business and then stay in the business of merely being suitable.
Basically, your guy is out for himself to maximize his sales, and the way he does it is to be loyal to the mutual fund. And they try to sell you the most profitable products.
Steve Shulo learned this lesson the hard way when he encountered someone selling financial advice in his school lunchroom.
I met my salesperson in the teacher's cafeteria. She showed us the different products. You know, I didn't know very much about investing, but in the back of my mind, way back then, how was this person compensated? It was always a question, because I had worked in the private sector before I came into teaching, and I knew there were no free lunches. Nothing is free.
The salesperson working on a commission basis offered Shulo an annuity, a retirement insurance product with what he thought was a guaranteed return of 12% a year.
So I signed up for $200 a month, and for about 5 years, the interest rate was going way down to 3%. And I was wondering, what the heck is going on here? Why is it down to 3%? I didn't understand that the insurance company has the right every year to reset that rate as they see fit.
So how can you know when a financial advisor is really a salesman?
If you're working with somebody who is trying to sell you financial advice, you say to them, are you acting in my best interest here? Would you be willing to sign a pledge that says that you're going to act as my fiduciary at all times with all products? Because if you're not, then I'm going to leave. And it's really just as simple as that.
Another broker sold an annuity to the Featherstons after the crash of 2008. At the time, it seemed suitable.
This was a product that we had discussed with him, and we thought that this would insulate some of our money from what we had just gone through, what a lot of people had just gone through.
Right. You know, we trusted him.
Yeah, we trust him.
Yeah, we trust him.
But the problems came after Mark got laid off and the couple had to break into their account.
I mean, we're talking on $7,000, the fees have been upwards of $600 just to get the money out.
I can agree paying the 10% penalty, you know, to Uncle Sam, but, you know, these companies need to realize that they're making money off the backs of people that have worked hard for their money. It makes you mad, but, you know, what are you going to do? You're powerless.
He paid for advice that was not appropriate.
To try and hold the industry accountable, the Department of Labor proposed a new fiduciary rule in the fall of 2010.
When retirement savings are at stake, advisors should put their clients' interests first. The critical question is, what constitutes paid investment advice? The proposal we're discussing today will amend a 35-year-old regulatory interpretation.
The rule would require all financial advisors to put their customers' interests before their own whenever dealing with retirement accounts.
Today, there are trillions of dollars in each of these markets. The variety and complexity of financial products have increased and made fee arrangements far less transparent.
The financial services industry lobbied hard against the new rule.
It just seems that the financial services industry is really concerned about consequences.
They got the attention of Congress.
Our job here in Congress is not to preserve the business model that has existed for 35 years, but if you're going to upset that business model, we better know why, and we better know where we're going.
We don't need an alternative. We just don't need to do this.
The Labor Department pulled back their proposal.
People in the suitability business have very good lobbyists, and they've done a very effective job of creating doubt in Washington and concern about how something like this would be administered, about how the fiduciary standard would be enforced, about the costs of making whatever transition you would need to make.
The full political power of the financial institutions and the mutual fund industry was completely engaged in making sure that rule never saw the light of day.
They were saying the rule is too tough.
They were saying they don't want any rule.
They don't want to have fiduciary applied to them. They don't want to
because they're not really dispensing financial advice. They're just dispensing information and educational services, yada, yada, yada. Give me a break. They're steering you to the funds controlled by their company. Otherwise, you might leave and go somewhere else.
I asked the head of retirement at J.P. Morgan Asset Management why anyone would want to take advice from someone not bound by a fiduciary pledge. Shouldn't I want to only work with somebody who has a fiduciary obligation?
Not necessarily.
No?
No.
Isn't it better?
It's different.
It's not better?
It can cost more. You may not get any different advice or outcome, and it can cost you more.
Right, but make this simple for the investor. I sit down with somebody, and they give me some advice. You say I should ask a lot of questions. I want to know whether or not one of those questions shouldn't be whether they have a fiduciary responsibility.
Yes, I think that's a very good question.
And if they don't?
Ask them what that means. And see what you think about their answer.
Well, make it simple. Should I prefer somebody with a fiduciary responsibility?
So that's a question that can only be answered on a personal basis based on what your level of need is, what your risk appetite is, and how much of the investment decision you want to delegate. If you
but this isn't making it simple.
Well, I wish it was simpler.
Over the past couple of decades, we've handed over more than $10 trillion of our retirement money to the financial services industry. They've built a pretty good business out of it. But how well is it working for you and me? So far, most efforts to reform the industry have fallen flat. Recently, the government has forced through some new rules on fee disclosure, and the Department of Labor says it will try to reintroduce a new fiduciary rule soon.
Unless there's a game changer, unless there's a law passed or laws passed or scrap the system and start over, as I advocate oftentimes, no, nothing will change. There's no incentive for the market to change. People will just keep on saving because it's the only option they've got, and companies will keep on raking in the profits.